It's refreshing to see three ministers here from the department this morning taking questions. It just shows the importance of this department. My question is in relation to the main supports to the SME sector the department is proposing, including additions to the increased cost of business scheme. If you please, ministers. Thank you.
Thank you, Caoirleach, and I thank Deputy Shanahan for posing this very important question. The Government has adopted a proactive approach in supporting the Irish SME sector across multiple crises over the last number of years. Over the two-year period to budget 2024, a total of £12 billion was provided in cost of living and doing business supports, comprising of a mix of permanent and once-off measures, most significantly the Temporary Emergency Support Scheme. Budget 2024 also continued several measures which will support business, like the £257 million in the support through the increased cost of business grant, the 9% VAT reduction for gas and electricity, which was extended for an additional 12 months to the 31st of October, a temporary excise reduction applying to auto diesel, petrol, marked gas, oil, which was extended to the 31st of March 2024, and an increase in VAT registration thresholds for our SME sector. I recognise that costs are impacting firms, and this motivated the recent introduction of a range of additional measures aimed at reducing costs for small and medium-sized businesses. These include ensuring that employer PRSI threshold is explicitly considered as part of the Low Pay Commission deliberations and is reviewed on each occasion that the minimum wage is increased. Increasing the employer PRSI threshold from 441 to 496 with effect from the 1st of October 2024, reopening the increased cost of business scheme for another 14 days and launching a second phase of the scheme targeted at businesses in retail and hospitality, doubling the innovation grant voucher from €5,000 to €10,000, increasing the maximum amount available under the energy efficiency grant scheme to €10,000 and reducing the business contribution from 50% to 25%, widening the eligibility of the trading online voucher and doubling the grant to €5,000, increasing the lending limit to Microfinance Ireland loans to 50,000 from 25, widening the eligibility for the Digital for Business consultancy scheme, launching a new Ireland's Best Entrepreneur programme to encourage entrepreneurship, and launching a new online national enterprise hub for SMEs to access information on a wide range of government supports. Thank you.
Minister, obviously I welcome the extension of the ICOB scheme and also the changes to the PRSI VAT thresholds, which is something that I and my colleagues in the regional group brought to government some weeks back in a private member's motion. But could I ask you firstly about the participation rate in terms that you're seeing of businesses who are accessing ICOB, and what consideration has been made to businesses who are not paying rates because their rates are bundled up potentially with their rent, and the landlord can't claim the rate either, which means those businesses are not getting access to the ICOB scheme. How are those businesses to be supported? And I'd also ask you, have you looked at other businesses that are very exposed to labour-intensive sectors, particularly and the associated employment costs, particularly in the areas of childcare, grooming, the leisure and homes industries? Some of these businesses are really suffering, Minister. The ICOB scheme and some of the other initiatives that you've announced, although they are welcome, they're not going to fundamentally change the cost perspective for these businesses.
Thank you, Caoirleach, and thank you again, Deputy. So when the scheme had closed a week ago, we had about 76,000 approximate registrations. That was roughly around 60% of all businesses who qualified for the increased cost of business grant. Then a decision was taken to open it for a further 2 weeks, put together with a very strong and robust advertising campaign, which hopefully will encourage uptake now into they run down to next Wednesday. So I really would appeal to businesses, this money is there for you. In relation to businesses who don't qualify, are over the 30,000 threshold, there are other supports contained in my package, working with Minister Cleary and Minister Higgins, that will meet their requirements, like the PRSI change that you referenced, like the other supports in energy efficiency, which can reduce their monthly bill by over €1,000 by changing their LED lighting, refrigeration and other capital costs that will assist them into the future. So this is a strong package working under the budgetary framework, and as I said, I've met with a number of business groups working with them, hopefully to have a very strong package into the next budget.
Minister, I think you know a large part of the burden of costs. Some have come about because of the increased cost environment, inflation, but a large amount of them were brought about by the progressive costs introduced by government. And I've advocated for quite some time to both Deputy Varadkar when he was Taoiseach, to Deputy Simon Coveney when he was Minister, and now I'm saying it to yourself again, and I said it to Minister Cleary, about the importance of having a proper consultation on LEAF, and I'm asking you again to assist in bringing ISME onto the Labour Employer Economic Forum, that we have proper discussion around these and that we don't go off as we did the last time on a solo run here in terms of adding costs of employment onto business. The SME sector has to be considered in those negotiations. I would also say to you, Minister, that the most obvious thing in terms of the food and hospitality sector is a return to the 9% VAT rate. It is absolutely critical in that sector, and you have outlined that some costs are going to be deferred for other months in terms of excise and that, but I wonder, have you any concerns regarding 4 months now of declining consumer confidence, which is being seen in footfall and it's being seen particularly in the food and hospitality sector, the small cafe sector, all of that. I think you're going to have to look again, Minister, and ask you again for a return of the VAT 9, if you please. Thank you.
Thank you, Gahir. Look, again, I thank the Deputy for his question. We have worked with all sectors. I met ISME yesterday, along with another number of business sectoral groups, and we are working with them to progressively keep improving the business environment which they operate in. I would point out that inflation has halved since November 2022. That really demonstrates that government policies are working. We really did tackle it in the best way we could, mitigating the pressure on vulnerable people right up and down the country, and also with the strong business packages, €12 billion up to the last 2 budgets, and we'll continue to work closely with them. I would point out that the robust evidence we're seeing is that we have about 2.8 million people employed. We see a ratio of 10 to 1 for every 10 businesses opening now in our economy, only 1 is closing. So it's very important to look at the evidence. But I am absolutely aware there are pressure points. We are very much aware that 60% of our national minimum wage workers rely on retail and hospitality for their employment, and we'll be working closely with those sectors in the horizon now up to the next budget, and that will give us a chance as 3 ministers to put a strong mark that we are really listening to businesses. We've done it in the package that we have introduced here in the last week, and I'm happy to say it's got good welcome from businesses. Notwithstanding, it is modest, and I think we have to be honest about that, but it does show as a government that we are listening and we're doing our very best to support them at a time when consumer and discretionary incomes are under pressure, and we would accept that.